The ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus once said that the secret of happiness is not found in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. Clearly, a man who never had to enter a ticket ballot for a second-tier Scottish football match. Welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast, where tonight, when I'm not tripping over my words, we're going to be previewing the trip for Raith Rovers to Lesser Hampden to face Queen's Park. I'm your host this evening, Robbie Weir. And joining me, I've got in new surroundings, shall we say. We've got Scott Fleming. How are you getting on, Scott?
Yeah, doing good, mate. Got a new job, and so had to move to a different part of the Netherlands over now on the west coast down in The Hague. So no, it's been good, been busy. So good to be back on, and well, it's not been necessarily great viewing recently, but good to always chat about the Rovers anyway.
Right, it's always good to get your thoughts on what's happening at the club and the direction things are going. And of course, we're joined by Blair Hopcroft, who has been on a bit more regularly, but still not for the post-match for the Morton game. So we'll get your thoughts on that in a minute. Blair, how are you getting on?
I'm very well, mate. I am grateful to have missed the game based on the post-match podcast and the you boys going through it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to my trip to the Lego Stadium on Saturday. Tick another one off the list.
Yeah, so it's the 990 capacity. I mean, if you're a Queen's Park fan and you're listening to this podcast, feel free just to skip. I'll probably put a timestamp in later on, because they must hear this every other week. It must be incredibly tedious if you're a Spiders fan. 990 capacity. It was roughly about 225, I think it was, away tickets that Rovers fans got. Just a rough experience in general. Blair, you already had plans, I think, to sort of circumvent
it. Well, we'd potentially looked at whether we could do something in the Macmillan Club, but I didn't think that would have worked either. But thankfully, the boys all got a ticket, so we're on the Stevie Gray Coach Express heading through to Glasgow on Saturday. Looking forward to it. I mean, I know that, like you say, to be fair, I still think if any Queen Park fans listening, why? This is not for you. But it's an absolute shambles, and it really is. It's embarrassing. It's that thing of, I know that, you know, teams of or fans of the sort of bigger clubs and clubs that kind of travel around Europe and all of these kind of things are used to not getting, you know, like a Rangers fan even going to Starks Park is no guaranteed a ticket if you're a season ticket holder. I get that, but it's a stretch when you can't get your 500 or so regular travelling fans into a ground on a Saturday, and that's not because they've got this big stadium like at Tynecastle that they just keep selling out because they're absolutely flying. It's because they decided to build a stadium that, quite frankly, isn't fit for purpose. When they had the money to build a stadium, it just defies logic. It makes absolutely no sense. And they deserve every bit of pelters they get.
Yeah, I mean, we naturally look at it from the Rovers' perspective. So there are probably some Rovers fans looking at it asking, why has nobody asked the question before? I can only assure you that Queen's Park fans have been very, very vocal. They don't have such a board. They've got like a committee that makes decisions. And they asked the question in the summer, how come, with what was it, a £5 million loss last year or something, they had to cut back down to £1 million that they can spend this year. And they're asking the question, well, how come we didn't get these extra seats in? And the then chairperson of the committee, Graham Shields, I think his name was, says, what's the point in building extra seats because nobody's going to show up? It's just that. And then he subsequently resigned because of online abuse, which is the sort of, I know that we'd spoken a bit about it before on sort of in terms of the podcast. And I remember Leslie being pretty certain he was of the indication he thought they were going to try and get back into Hampden, but I was very sceptical of the direction that they were taking, and to go down that route. And I think Scott, has there been any indication for Raith TV if they'll be able to offer international coverage, or is that something that you've kept an eye out for? been in the Netherlands?
I've not heard anything as of yet. I know that they do have like a Twitter page and stuff, Raith TV, so they tend to stick stuff out when they are allowed to do any sort of coverage for away games and stuff like that. But I think they probably won't even know as of today. We're recording Thursday evening, but they probably won't know even until maybe Friday evening, I would imagine, before the game, so that they know if they're allowed to do it or not, or if they're just doing the standard highlights. But I'll look out for it. Hope that they are going to show it. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, as ever, what was it I was saying before? It's like wouldn't condemn VPN or condone the use of VPNs, but yes, there is a certain photon. What's a photon? It's a subatomic particle. Am I wrong in thinking? And a VPN's a virtual private network. I wouldn't ever condone anyone ever using those, but yeah, if you're looking for making means to an ends, then you can potentially use that. Not that I would condone it, as I say.
I would condone it for what it's worth. If they're going to build a stupid stadium, then what else are you meant to do?
Yeah, that's true. There is, of course, the grassy bank at the end, which I've seen Jamie Hogan was already saying he's going to be standing there with his drink enjoying that from that venture, possibly. So you might end up in good company up there if you're watching the game from the grassy bank. Right, let's focus on the game. Let's move past that. So I'll put a wee marker there for the benefit of the Queen's Park fans, the few that might be listening, so that we can skip ahead. Queen's Park. Blair, just to look at their home record, I was actually one of those people listening to Spiders talk earlier on, and they were talking about their last home win. I went and looked it up in the league. Care to guess when it was?
Well, it's not this season because they've only won once, and it was away from home. I'm going to guess it's against us. Actually, no, it can't be because
it's not.
We beat them twice there last season.
Yep.
They must have won at home last season.
They did.
Is it this year? That's how bad this is getting.
Barely. So I'll cut it off at this point. So it was the 4th of January 2025. They beat Livingston 2-0, courtesy of a Jack Turner goal and a Robbie Muirhead putting it into his own net. We all know records like that have to end at some point. Is that something Rovers need to be cautious of going into this one? That Queen's Park, I mean, they'll be looking to get points on board and they'll see it as an opportunity.
I mean, almost certainly. We went up to Ross County against a team who hadn't won at home and lost away. I mean, it's very much like what there was kind of chat about it on the post match about, games that you have to be winning and if you've got any aspirations and all that kind of stuff, and it falls into that old adage. It's a bit of a cliche, but if you want to be in the playoffs, you have to be beating teams like Queen's Park away or at home, and we need to be beating Airdrie at home next week. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of game. You and it's no disrespect to Queen's Park, but we have to be going into it looking to win. But with that said, anything can happen, eh? Like it's a team at the moment that's lacking a bit of form. I think it's fair to say, as far as the Rovers are concerned. But they're certainly no better. The odd draw here and there, but spatterings of losses through it. Some pretty hefty losses as well in there last week, in particular. But whether we get the response from it and whether they've got players back in. I know they've had a few out injured and stuff as well. So it's an interesting one because you think with a game like this, like it's you get the crowd behind you and you get the noise and all the rest of it. But as we've already said, like I'm genuinely really intrigued to see what it's going to be like. I can't remember the last time I was at a game with fewer than 1,000 people there. Like it certainly doesn't happen very often. So it's going to be a bit of a strange atmosphere, I think, but definitely a game we need to be winning.
Yeah, you look back at matches over your time supporting the club, and with it, a few spring to mind. You obviously have games where they're up Highlands Way in like maybe like supporters bus doesn't go, etc., or it's during a difficult period for the club and maybe people are less inclined to go. One that jumps out for me is when we played Ayr at Capello, because the floodlights at Somerset Park was there, and that was a real niche game because we got knocked out the Challenge Cup that day, but it was one where not many Rovers fans went to that. I think there was only about a dozen of us that ended up going to it. A really bizarre game where it was only about 300 fans, but for Lesser Hampden, it's one that you do. I think a lot of people, if you're playing by the rules, a lot of people do. It's one to get ticked off the list, and you want to do it with your own club. So, yeah, to be able to actually get along and to be able to go to the stadium in itself, it does make a bit of a curiosity about this one being our first game there. Scott, Blair just referenced the loss, the 5-0 loss against Partick Thistle. The Morton game last week for Rovers, probably a good example of why that's not necessarily the best thing. You can't always get the sort of rebound off that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know by now anyway, being in the Championship for so long, that anybody can get a result on any given day against any given team as well. So, like, and we've seen at the start of the season, everybody was kind of almost like, yes, we got Queen's Park at home, opening day, good chance of getting 3 points, get a win on the board. Didn't happen. And it was actually through a penalty to get lucky to actually get a point out of that as well. So, yeah, I think it'll be maybe quite a sort of nervy sort of game to be going into, purely down to the fact that there's not really a great vibe in terms of how we're playing now, how Robson's kind of got the team playing. The fan base are starting to get a bit itchy, if you want to call it that. Just kind of, they're being heard on social media now, but it's slowly getting to the point at games where fans are being heard not being happy basically with Robson and how he's playing with his team. So I think what would be nice if we got like an early goal just to kind of settle folk down and also give the players some confidence, because I do think there is some players in that team right now that just aren't playing with any confidence at all. Even though we did beat Partick the week before, there was still moments in that Morton game that you're going, I'm not sure these guys are overly confident. But in terms of Queen's Park, I think is it Sean Crighton, their manager? He mentioned in his post-match, and I was listening to the Terrace podcast earlier. They were saying that he had used this already early in the season, but he basically said that that performance they were just putting in the bin for the fact that it was that bad a performance. So you're going, well, you can't be doing that too many times in a season. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at potentially losing your job, I would imagine. But I think we need to be just focusing on ourselves going forward, because I think Josh Fowler's back for injury. He seemed to play at Partick last week. He's been one of their only real standouts as a player. It wouldn't surprise me if there's clubs looking at him in January, to be fair, because he has been pretty good when he has played. But yeah, I think we just need to focus on ourselves. I think we're going to be a little bit hamstrung in some positions in terms of who we can pick, in terms of our team. We're going to be, obviously, Fordyce was announced earlier in the week is out for a number of months by the sounds of it. And we don't know if Sean Byrne's going to be back fit this week, because it sounds like he's been carrying a knock for a number of weeks as well. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what sort of team Robson can kind of get together and play. Obviously, Lewis Stevenson also went off last week, so we're kind of... I'll be surprised if we can fill the bench, actually, come Saturday. But, yeah, other than that, I think we just need to try and get an early goal to really give this team some confidence, because, as I say, it's been basically since the end of September we've been playing with very little confidence.
Yeah, you referenced the sort of the performance last week, and I know Sean Crichton will be keen to move past that. One that did sort of stand out for me, it was a little while ago now because it was back at the end of September, but the 2-1 loss against St Johnstone at Lesser Hampden, because it took St Johnstone up to the 90th minute, I think, basically to get their goal, and it was a well-worked move with Gullen and McPake. So they can do that to teams at points. Again, I know that they've not got off the board with a win yet, at home, but even still, it's a game where you sort of look at it and they do have a sort of spine within that team of relative experience. I know that they're going to be losing certainly Charlie Fox based on last week and his very unfortunate circumstances of what's happened with him. But to get Josh Fowler back in, Grant Savory's back playing for them as well now, so he seems to be sort of returning back to sort of an indication of full fitness. So I feel like a lot of their fans are quite keen to see what Fowler can do when he's paired up with Savory, because Savory was certainly the creative influence going into that season where they ran Dundee close for the league. Just to come back to you, Blair, what have you made of Queen's Park's season so far? I know it's a bit of a blanket question to ask, but they've brought in 3 guys from Dumbarton, Shields, Pignatello, and again Michael Roof, who's out injured. And then they've brought in the 2 lads from ourselves as well as Fowler and a few other bits of business. But do you think, given the sort of hand that Sean Crichton's been dealt, is it sort of he's going with the expectations at the moment? They're not cut adrift maybe as some people might have thought, but he's still got that relative core spine where they might potentially be able to push up.
Yeah, I mean, the Championship, as Scott kind of said, the Championship's a really funny league in the terms of the that old thing of teams can beat other teams, but it's also a league where there's a lot of draws. Across the board, there's a lot of draws, and so you don't end up getting cut adrift too quickly, because there's not a huge amount of teams picking up 3 points kind of week in, week out. I mean, they've only won 1 game at all this season. We're saying that they've not won at home, but they've only won. They won up at Dingwall, which again we couldn't do it, so fair enough. I remember talking about them at the start of the season before the first game, and it was like sort of 3 weeks before the season, I, along with everybody else, had completely written them off. Like they were going to be absolute cannon fodder. They were going to be bottom of the league by, end of September and cut adrift really quickly. And their defence, they probably would be if it wasn't for the fact that Airdrie were quite so shit as what they are as well. But they then kind of did that little spree of signings, bringing in Connolly, bringing in Murray, and you kind of went, oh, actually, there's some relatively decent Championship players in there. They've got Grant Savory back, who's we all know is a good footballer. Do you know what I mean? If he can stay fit, then there's a player there. They take a risk on Fowler, and we talked. I really enjoyed the post-match chat about recruitment and stuff. I thought Les absolutely nailed the Rover side of things, but Fowler's one of those, a bit like J-Rowe, a bit like Chin. It's a bit of a gamble, you don't really know if they can cut it. They look decent or whatever. You bring them in, and the boys scored. What's he got? 5 goals already in 10 games or something for them. So, like you can't argue with that. It's pretty good. That said, their form is pretty poor. They seem to be the kind of team that they'll get a draw, but when they lose, they seem to lose relatively. Other than like you say, that St Johnstone game, which was actually they were relatively unlucky in that. But they've had 4 off Arbroath, they've had 5 off Partick. Do you know what I mean? There's relatively big losses in there. They came to us in the first game of the season, and I didn't think they looked very good. I didn't think they looked terrible, but I didn't think they looked very good. They went ahead early on with a penalty, and then it was 10 men behind the ball for the entire game, and we just didn't break them down. We could not kind of get through them. And do you know what? Fair play, that's a tactic. It works. If you get 1-0 up and you can protect it, then feel free. I would be really interested to see what happens, as kind of Scott alluded to as well. If we go a goal up early on, really interesting to see what happens. If we can actually kick on and get the 3, 4, 5 that other teams seem to be taking off them, or if we're even a goal up early on, are still going to kind of struggle, because we're not scoring goals. That's the problem. We're not scoring enough. So it's a really intriguing one. But as far as the start of the season goes, the fact that there's 4 teams down there, all within a kind of a win or 2 of each other, they're looking all right. At the moment, it certainly could have been a lot worse.
Yeah,
To be fair, I think most of their bad results anyway seem to have came away from home. So, and Robbie, you touched on it already. St Johnstone went there and got a really tough game. I think was that the game they were without the big centre half? Was it Diabate? And so everybody was wondering how they would get on without him. But I mean, it's still St Johnstone. They've got a big enough squad that should be taking care of Queen's Park no matter what. But even still, they struggled that game. But other teams seem to have had really close games there too. So I'm not expecting us. I don't think on it. I hope not a lot of the fan base are going in going, oh, well, this should just be 2-3-0 easily. Like, it's going to be a tough game. Any away game in this league is a tough game. You've got to. I know it's in the cliche. You've got to earn your win. So we have to come out firing. We can't be sort of lagging about just hoping things are going to happen or Dylan Easton's going to pull a rabbit out of a hat again, because we need to work for this one if we're going to get any sort of luck go our way and actually get 3 points on the board.
I mean,
that's a really good point, actually. When you have a look at those results, I was just flicking through on flash scores as you were speaking there. It is actually like away loss, draw at home, away loss, draw at home, draw at home. I mean, they've drawn with Ayr United. They lost to Partick 1-0. And I had a look and I wondered, is it taking the whole game for them to break them down? Tony Watt scored after 7 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And they didn't, there's no collapse there. So you could be right. Maybe it's just an away for home thing.
That game as well, Queen's Park basically played, I think, 70 minutes with 10 men. So they done well to hold on against Ayr that game.
Well, to further that theory, Blair, I've just gone on to the Arbroath game where they lost 4-1 up at Gayfield, and Gavin Riley scored after 9 minutes on the clock, doubled it after 30 with Taylor Stephen, and then by 42 minutes Ryan Dower got on the score sheet to make it 3-0. One player that I had noticed actually coming under a bit of questions rather than so much stick is actually Callum Ferry. But he's a name that will probably send a shiver down any listener's spine, given some of the performances that he's had against us. I mean, Scott, do you think that in itself is a sort of factor that you've got to look for, given his performances against Rovers in the past?
I think it just gets to the point where you just laugh now. The fact that he seems to just, for some reason, that he just pulls out 2 unbelievable saves that you're going, how the hell has he saved that? And yet the following week or the week before, you watch an absolute clanger film and going, where's that keeper when you need him? But listen, he's a very solid goalie overall. He's been one of their best players for the last couple of seasons anyway. So I think I would like him to have one of these off days, to be fair, because obviously when we went there last game of last season and won comfortably, he wasn't even playing. So we can't even really count that one because he wasn't playing. But it'll be tough as ever, as I say. He is a good goalie. If I always say, we seem to be a team that's been a bit shot shy at times this season, so I know that he can be a very good shot stopper anyway, but just put in some shots, and as I say, you never know. If you didn't shoot, you didn't score. So I'd like to see guys like Hamilton, even Easton, if McMullen's playing, all these guys need to be taking more shots if we've got any chance of scoring goals. So even Scott Brown, if he can keep pushing forward as he has been in the last couple of games as well. But I think I hope, touch wood, like every other Rovers fan, that Callum Ferry does decide to finally not have an unbelievable game against Raith Rovers.
Yeah, there's more than enough examples of it, and just even at points like last season, the season that we were running Dundee United close to the league as well, there was a save, I think it was from Sam Stanton at Hampden. It was just ridiculous, and you're just thinking, why us? Why always us? It's but that's exactly what we expect in terms of Rovers fans. But I feel, I mean, they had that heavy loss last week, but I feel like Rovers, I can probably counting about like 15, 20 years of supporting Rovers. On one hand, the number of times I've seen them sort of compound misery of another side. It never feels like another side we go up against them. And they've had an absolute nuke the week before, and then we go in and we're like, yep, give them an absolute doing, and they're continuing to hate their lives. Instead, it's usually, oh well, we were terrible last week, but we've raised our game, and this has given us a bit of hope. Cowden Beef and Falkirk used to be absolutely terrible for it, both of them. They're like, we've definitely beat us, and then, oh no, I can't believe that we went out and won. It was great. But anyway, obviously a few ex-Rovers into the mix there, Blair. Both, all three of them, Ewan Murray, Aidan Connolly, and Louis Longridge all appearing for the Spiders last week. So that gives you some semblance of to know what to expect as well.
Well, to an extent, you can expect Aidan Connolly to be shooting for everywhere. I do feel like you know that thing about players coming back to haunt you or whatever. It worries me. Aidan Connolly genuinely worries me because I think he'd still play for us if he was able to. Like I don't think he ever wanted to leave. So effectively, to be surplus to requirements and moved on, you've got to have a wee point to prove. Do you know what I mean? So fully expecting wee Aidan to tear us apart. To be honest, I love Aidan Connolly. Like it's going to feel really weird booing him, but yeah, really, really like him. Fully expecting Murray to just stick his face in front of everything that's going. If Callum Ferry's plucking balls from the top corner, it'll be Ewan Murray headbutting the post to get the ball around or whatever. It'll be. Longridge is a funny one. He kind of. I really liked him when he played for us. Actually, that was obviously the same time as Aidan Connolly under McKinnon. It was a really good side. Actually, I enjoyed watching them, and I particularly enjoyed watching him. He was a really good player. That goal he scored against Rangers, it's always forgotten about because it was that 2-2 game that Panayotto scoring the last minute equaliser to keep the champagne on ice, but Longridge's first goal was an absolute belter. Like it was a really good finish. But he seems to play every position in the park for them now. Yeah. Like he's popped up everywhere. Do you know what I mean? He's basically turned himself into Scott McGill. So fair play. It'll be interesting to see what happens. My hope is that we know what to expect with Aidan Connolly. We just need to show him on his right foot. If you just keep him on his right foot, we have half a chance. If you show him inside on his left, we're stuffed.
Yeah, Connolly's he's not had the most auspicious of starts to the season. He's only got the one assist, but again, that also you kind of think now's the perfect time for him to start banging in goals and grabber assists, isn't it? So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Scott, just to come back to you, sort of more of a generic question. Do you think this is the potential that really would see it this weekend to sort of really develop into those three mini leagues with sort of Partick and St Johnstone up the top, then the playoff chasing teams, and then you've got your sort of Morton, Queen's Park, and Airdrie down the bottom? Is that sort of, what are your perspectives on that?
Yeah, I can see what you're saying with that. I mean, I think it tends to be the Championship. Most seasons it does break into like three separate sections a lot of the time. I do think that this month is massive in terms of for us going forward, because you've got Queen's Park this week, Airdrie the following week, and then Arbroath at home. Arbroath away. I know Arbroath are having a very good season right now, but on paper, that's three games that that's the three games that we need to be targeting almost maximum points for if we've got any aspirations of making the top four. More the fact that December's fixtures looks even tougher than they probably did even at the start of the season, going by the fixture card. So I really hope that we can, as you say, get a win on the board Saturday, get a bit of confidence about us going into the Airdrie game, and then get another win there. Because I do fear that December could be quite a tough month, especially if we don't get great results out of these 3 in November, I really worry about them 4 fixtures in December. Yeah, I'll just try and stay positive and hope that we do come out firing, get an early goal as we've touched on already Saturday, and then we can kind of relax a wee bit if we can get a win Saturday and then move into energy next weekend.
Yeah, it's a really trite point to say, but I think we're getting into the territory of what managers love to talk about, which is just one game at a time. And just, I know that we know that December's around the corner, but it is very true that you focus too much on that. You take your eye off the ball in the Queen's Park game, and then it's the mood totally changes. And likewise for other teams, it might be other teams have slip-ups that we don't think about. Certainly we've seen that a bit with Ayr and Dunfermline across the league so far. I mean, it might be that they go out and win at the weekend, but by the same token, we've seen surprise results coming at different points.
I was going to say, it's not been mentioned yet as well, but the clocks did change right after that Partick game. And we all know, if you've been a Rovers fan for long enough, you know that means we're in for about 12 weeks of torture.
Aye, but Blair, we're getting all that torture early in October, just with the 2-0 losses, just to get that.
Just to warm you up.
Yes, let's hope it's not the curse of the daylight savings that we so often know. It's just, it was incredible before. It just used to be, particularly under John McGlynn. Under John McGlynn, it was a different level of consistency. How we would start the season on fire and we would look fantastic, and then it would just tail off. Scott, I'm going to stick with you. We'll turn our attention now on the Rovers and sort of looking at our perspective on the club in general. What were your thoughts on last week, both in terms of the performance and just the sort of mood perspective from you? Just obviously you are over in Holland, but following the club on social media and sort of the discussions that you've had.
I think I've not been quite as doom and gloom as a lot of people have been in terms of. I get that the team have not been performing, and I've also been just as outspoken as everybody else in the group chat and on social media in terms of that we need to see better from the players, from Barry Robson. I think that we have been underperforming in the last month especially, but it has been the last few weeks especially have been pretty tough to watch, and it's kind of what you're hearing for a lot of fans now is I'm actually not enjoying the games as much now, is what you're hearing, just because of the style of play. And it's a bit of a dangerous territory, that, because you start going, right, that I spoke to my dad about this at the weekend, and he brought up a good point, and I then brought it up in the group chat, was it's given vibes of Grant Murray's last season, currently. The football is not great to watch, and we're not really getting too many positive results, and then we might throw in the odd win here and there. That's exactly how Grant Murray kind of left the club, was in a season like that. So I'm hoping it's not going to turn into that. But yeah, Barry Robson really needs to get a few results on the board back to back to kind of get everybody quiet again, because it's been pretty. I wouldn't say it's really been hostile, but it's been kind of gearing up that way. If we were to, if we'd say that we hadn't beat Partick the week before and then Morton go and score that late goal as they did, I could imagine that it would have been pretty hostile at the end of that game. But I think the win kind of bottomed that sort of leeway, the fact that we had been leading so long in that game against Morton, and then it was a bit of a sucker punch at the end that they came and scored. It was the usual typical Rovers fan, though, that everyone's going, they will get a chance at the end, and it's just coming. That's what everybody was saying on Saturday. It was just, even though I don't think Morton were cutting us open at any point or really causing us loads of issues, but you just thought it's 1-0. We're not taking any chances that we're getting here in the second half. It's such a dangerous scoreline, and all it takes is one little back heel flick just towards goal that puts the ball in the net. So it's it was a tough one to take, but at the same time, I think we do definitely need to go on a little bit of run here in November to kind of silence the sort of haters that have got the Barry Robson haters anyway that's been going about, because it's been quite obvious the people are becoming quite outspoken about the Rodson's tactics, but also just the style of play. And as I say, I don't think it has been great to watch, but I don't think it's also been quite as bad as some people are saying as well.
Blair, enter.
So I'd like to speak on behalf of all the Barry Robson haters. I disagree a little bit, Scott. I have to say, I think it has been pretty bad, just in terms of the style of play, the tactic. I've actually been thinking about this a lot this week, having listened to the post match, and I was thinking, like, Barry Robson's a qualified coach. I mean, he's involved with SFA coaching badges and all that kind of stuff, and he speaks at kind of events and all the rest of it. So he's I mean, without going down total cliches, he's your modern coach, right? So he's come through all the badges, he's done all the stuff. He was a very good player in his day and all the rest of it, and played in some really good sides. So I'm not convinced he's walking into training on a Monday morning and going, right, boys, we're going to practice shelling it long. I feel like there has to be, I don't know what it is, but I feel like there has to be something more to it that I'm not seeing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he could stand up in front of the players we've got, Dylan Easton and Sean Byrne and even Paul Hanlon, and boys who are genuinely decent footballers, and go, right, boys, we're going to shell it long. That's what we're going to do. That's the tactic for 2025. Let's lump it and chase it and see where we go. So I don't know if the whole premise is being badly done, but let's get the ball forward so that we can close them down, and let's have all the play in their half, and then we'll win the ball back and we'll play from there, and it's just not working. I can't understand it, because it's just so poor, like so poor to watch. I do feel for him a little bit. I agree with a lot of what Duncan said on the post-match podcast about, he's not necessarily got a queen of options in some of the positions. He's not got a really, really pacey forward who can come on and kind of do the Finlay Pollock role that he had last season. Or certainly he's not got one that can finish. He's got a pacey forward who can finish. And he's got a not so pacey forward. And I'll stop there. But I just feel like he's kind of backed himself into a corner a little bit with the way that he's playing. I feel for him a little bit on Saturday, because it was a really well taken goal, but it's just one of them improvisation. Boy sticks his leg out. He means it. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt he means it, but that's not a training ground move. Do you know what I mean? That's just a cross that's ended up behind him, and he stuck a leg out, and it could have went anywhere, and it's went in. And fair play to the boy, because he'll dine out in that for a while. But if you're 1-0 up against Morton, as you say, going into the final 10 minutes, expect to get a barrage, expect to get balls coming into the box, expect them to be throwing themselves about looking for free kicks on the edge of the box and out wide trying to get crosses in, playing for corners and all the niggly wee stuff that they're good at. And fair play to them, because it's working. They've drawn so many games this season doing basically that. And it just, I didn't watch the game. I only saw the highlights. Really good goal, Jordan Doherty, and actually a really good finish for Jack Hamilton as well. I think that can kind of get glossed over a little bit, but it's just insipid now. It's like it isn't fun. It's no good to watch. I've missed the last 2 games, and honestly, normally I'm a bit kind of Saturday morning, and I'm away at the SQA to do whatever job I'm doing that Saturday, and I'm like, oh man, gutted. I'd really rather be at the football. Last couple of weeks, I didn't feel like that.
Yeah, and I feel going into this game on Saturday, there's a particular interest with it being Lesser Hampden, because a lot of people will say Lesser Hampden want to get ticked off the list, want to move forward, and that sort of the uniqueness surrounds this game. But yeah, with the performances going in, I know that we've spoken about it all at various points in terms of sort of post-match podcasts and sort of going into pre-match podcasts, but there is that sort of it's almost like the drop of the shoulders from the fan base, just that people are kind of knowing what to expect at the moment. They're not really enjoying it too much. I do, again, there's an element where the players aren't, they're obviously capable to a degree, or culpable to a degree, I should say. But also I do wonder as well how much the sort of psychological impact of sort of where you've not got that same backing, because it's like, I know that we always go back to it, but the 2 seasons ago when it was so much fun going to the football every Saturday, because you were scoring last minute winners and last minute equalisers, and then going to East End Park and winning Scottish Cup games with one defender and just all the nonsense. And I think that I was thinking about this earlier in the week, it's just so much easier to buy into when you're, like you say, when you're having a good time and you're like buzzing, you're walking up the steps at Starks Park every other Saturday and you're like, I'm so glad that I'm here because it's just such a fun time. Whereas more recently, that's obviously been on the back foot. But how we change that and how that moves forward, obviously, again, that can only be decided really on the pitch, I guess. And as much as we all want to give back into the players and to be able to support them as much as possible, people are going to naturally sort of call it out if they don't think it's been to the same level as they're hoping. Scott, I'm going to guess, did you tune into the game last Saturday?
Yeah, I caught most of it on Saturday. Right. There was a little bit, I was doing stuff in the house as well, so I didn't catch every single bit of it, but I had it on.
I just wanted to get your opinions on Paul Nisso's debut. He came in for his first start against Morton. What did you make of his performance in the middle of the midfield next to Ross Matthews and kind of Scott Brown, I guess, as well?
Yeah, I was intrigued going into it, the fact that he was obviously put in because of Sean Byrne coming out due to injury. So going in, I think everybody was just going in going, well, we don't know really what to expect here because we hadn't seen any of him. So he's not like somebody that's been coming on for little 20-minute cameos or anything like that. It's just genuinely we've not seen anything from him. So I thought he actually equipped himself pretty well in the midfield. I didn't think he was like way off the standard or anything like that. I thought he done what he needed to do. I thought he was quite an athletic sort of player as well. He seemed to get about the pitch pretty good. A few decent enough touches. I don't think he did anything to like stand out in terms of, oh, what a player we've got here or anything like that. But I just thought he done his job, to be honest. I thought I was a wee bit worried that he might be kind of no rabbit in the headlights sort of thing, but just he hadn't played Scottish Championship football. What's his compete level going to be like? Because you can what a Dougie Emery Morton side is going to be like in the middle of the park. They'll compete. So that did kind of worry me a wee bit, is let's see what he's got. But I thought overall, he was solid enough, and it makes me at ease now that we know that we can put him into the team. Because at first it was like, well, if Sean Byrne or Matthews or Brownie, if he's going with these three in the middle, if any of them are missing, can we put him in? Because there was a lot of people, to be fair, on Saturday were like, why is Montague not being put into the midfield and why is Insuo being brought in? But I thought, as I say, that he was solid enough. I thought he looked like he was tiring a wee bit at the end, but I think that was also quite natural, the fact that he's not really been playing games. So maybe it's good for him to get 90 minutes under his belt, especially if he's going to be playing more often going forward, depending on how Sean Byrne's injury situation is.
Yeah, that's the Sean Byrne one's naturally a worry, I think, across the squad, just having his experience missing out, and it's someone that you would want there available. And you can understand why we've not used Nisso perhaps so much, given Byrne's experience in the heart of midfield, if he is going to be that type of player. I know that me and sort of Duncan had a bit of a discussion before about that, and sort of saying like we don't really know as such what his best role is because we've seen such a limited sample size. Blair, just to come back to yourself, Jack Hamilton gets his goal, as you say, well taken on Saturday, but Barry Robson wasn't the courier about Callum Smith, saying that they're just biding their time a little bit with him just to sort of utilise him. Would you be potentially looking to see maybe a bit more in terms of the use for Callum Smith, sort of turn into sort of half an hour to go, depending on the circumstances?
Yeah, I think that's probably where he has to be coming in as kind of final 25, half an hour kind of thing. and trying to kind of build up to it. It's a big thing to come back for the injury that he's had, and he's obviously been out for a long time, and there is the risk that you bring him back too quickly and you just end up picking up little niggly things, and we can't really afford to lose another kind of forward player at the moment. So I think they have to be really careful, actually, in terms of bringing him back in. That said, I would like to see him, especially the next two games. You would hope, anyway, the next two games are games where you can, be a bit more on the front foot and a wee bit more attacking, you would hope. Because as Scott said, we've got a pretty long December coming. And I'm not entirely sure that the attacking football is going to be quite as important as the defensive football for certainly part of that month. So yeah, I think it's an opportunity for him to come in, and it's maybe actually an opportunity for Gentles as well. I know he only came on right at the end on Saturday, and let's be honest, he wouldn't have been on the park had they not scored. So it was a last gasp, chuck him on and see what we can kind of get. But again, if you're bringing in a young forward and you can't play him against Queen's Park and you can't play him against Airdrie, what's the point?
Yeah,
I suppose, for want of a better way of putting it. I get that you maybe didn't want to start him against St Johnstone, you didn't want to start him in a 5 derby. I get that completely. He's a young boy, but you've got to be trying to get him into the games where you've potentially, like I say, got an opportunity to play maybe even 2 up top, if the option kind of becomes available. It would be quite nice to see. I haven't really seen very much of that with Hamilton. I don't think we've really ever seen him particularly have a partner up there. He's been pretty isolated for most of it. He's sometimes had Vaughan off him and things, but it would be quite nice to see 2 out-and-out forwards as opposed to those kind of jinky ball players kind of in and around him. But yeah, time will tell, I suppose. I think certainly not going to be starting on Saturday, but if the first hour goes pretty well, then it would be good to see these boys getting some minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and Scott, one player that likely, if we've got our sort of shivers down the spine about Callum Ferry, I would imagine that Queen's Park fans probably have similar about Lewis Vaughan. He's played 15 games against them and had 8 goals. So I think it's the joint record that he's got in terms of goals scored against the club as Dunfermline, which are the top 2 that he scored against. Is that a bit of a sort of, you read the news reports, and obviously there's a lot of doubt about Vaughan at the moment in terms of missing out. He's sort of had a sort of lack of clarity about the hamstring injury, and obviously as fans you're only going to get so much of the picture sort of drip fed through the press. Is that a bit of a worry for you, just to sort of see that situation coming and missing that experience in the team?
Well, firstly, I think it's clear to see that Lewis Vaughan clearly likes playing against teams that play in black and white, if that's the case. But
there's other ones there, United as well. That's the third top team that he scored against. So just to reinforce your point.
I was going to say, I thought he had scored a few against as well. So it's funny how that's ended up. But in terms of Vaughan in general, I mean, we all know what he can do at this level. He's shown that he's a very talented player on his day, can score goals. He's been a brilliant player for us in the time that he's been with us in his career. But I think we all it's just, you want him to get these seasons where it's like he plays most of the season, he maybe misses a few games, but that he gets sort of 80% of the season at least, and you're just not really getting it. And I feel for him because, like, what can the lad do? Like, nothing. It's nothing that he can do to avoid it. So all you can do is kind of feel a bit sorry for him and just hope that he can get a bit more luck. But yeah, I don't expect to really see him on Saturday by the sounds of it. I think we're going to be probably another few weeks till we see Vaughan again, depending on what the sort of the physios and the club are saying with this sort of niggly injury that he's got. Because at the end of the day, when Vaughan's got a niggle, that's the sort of injuries that you go, right, well, do we just leave him out of training and games for a few weeks to see how he goes? Or is it one that you just kind of have to go week by week, see how he is? Because I know that that McGlynn anyway had made an agreement with Vaughan, because Vaughan had said on a podcast before that he'd made an agreement that he wouldn't train on a Monday due to if he'd played on the Saturday.
Yeah.
That to do with rehab and trying to make sure that he's always staying fit and stuff like that. So whether, I don't know if that's still been going on under Barry Robson, or if he's been asked to be training and it's maybe a little bit extra sort of pressure on sort of these muscle injuries for him. But I do just hope that he can get some sort of luck for the rest of the season in terms of coming back and giving us a chance of a sort of playoff push anyway, because the guy has been a legend for the club and one of the best players in my lifetime for the Rovers. So I just hope to be able to see him playing well and scoring goals again soon. But I think everybody can pretty much just reiterate that just they want to see him back on the pitch. And you hear it actually for other, like, whether they obviously they don't want it against their own team, but you see it for other fans, for other teams, they know how bad his injuries have been. 4 ACLs, loads of muscle injuries, and they're just like, they just feel like the guy's missed about 5 seasons of his career. You just want him to actually have a good run at it. So hopefully we get him back soon. But I suppose we're kind of in the dark with it all.
Yeah, it's just you've really summed it up perfectly there. It's one where with it you can understand Barry Robson being in his post-match interviews lamenting not having Lewis Florida, and as well Richard Chin, who's of course out injured as well and missing. Because players like that, you can definitely see the creative element that they bring to the table and what they offer. And again, naturally with Vaughan, he's a goal threat. We've seen it time and time again. So it's just, you do hope that situation resolves itself quite quickly, because you don't want it rumbling on. You want him to be back full of confidence and being Lewis Vaughan. You know what he's like. He's scored in a derby this season already. So we've seen what he can do in small moments. So yeah, fingers crossed. Blair, just to round off our sort of match preview as such, is there any changes that you would want to see within the team going into the game on Saturday? Or, I mean, are we so limited that you think it's going to be just basically all hands on deck and a limited bench?
I was going to say, did anybody have 52 minutes on me mentioning Josh Mullen? Sweepy. Because he's got to start. Like, I just think it's... And Hamilton's goal for me shows exactly why he has to be starting. Like, I think... I've been saying for ages, like, I feel like Hamilton's biggest threat for us is being in and around the box and getting on the end of crosses. Do you know, and he scored the goal that Montague cut back for him against Arbroath. He's got the header against Morton there. I just think he's a striker who benefits from being fed, like being in the box and kind of really actually giving him that opportunity. I actually missed the injury. Did you say that Fox is... You said something about it being really, really bad. I know he went injured on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a dislocated kneecap. So I think it'll be a few months.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a while. And it's a young kid that's coming in. He's like 18, 19-year-old, the kid that's coming in to replace him. I mean, you've got Ewan Murray there, and we all know what Ewan Murray can do. You all know the kind of defensive headers and the sticking his face in the way of things. But we also know that Ewan Murray can be got at. Like, we've all seen it. He's not kind of impervious to it. So I want us to start putting the ball in the box, and I do think that Josh Mullen's our best crosser of the ball. I think his set pieces, his corners, his free kicks from deep, his delivery of the ball is just another level entirely. Well above, for me, what Easton does. It's funny because Easton's such an important player for us and he's so good, but his set piece deliveries into the box, they're fine. There's nothing majorly wrong with them, but they are a level below, for me, the player that Dylan Easton is. Like, it's the one area of his game where I think he's all right at it, but it's definitely not his strength. He's better when he's standing players up and kind of running at them. So I'd like to see Byrne come back in if he's fit. I had heard that it was a back injury, and that he'd had a bit of treatment. So fingers crossed that means he's available for selection. Kind of really getting back to the 4-2-3-1 with the setup that we saw against Partick, but with Josh Mullen on the right wing. You can only imagine he's going to be forced into Wilson at left back as well if Stevenson's injured. Again, they've been quite tight-lipped as they're going to be about that injury. But
even with Wilson, he had a solid game last Saturday. I know I said that on the post-match podcast, but if he can carry on doing that most weeks, then he'll be absolutely fine.
I think in a back four he's fine.
Yeah.
And he's got a long throw, which is a decent thing to have as well. Like do you know what I mean? He comes with his benefits. He's not a left wing back though, which is where he was kind of being played before. So playing him on the left of a four, with Paul Hanlon inside him, I'm all right with. Like, and there was never an element that he was, terrible or defensively really suspect or anything. He just wasn't really offering a huge amount in the other aspects of the game. But I think with that formation, you don't necessarily need to. If you've got Easton out wide left, you really actually need somebody who's pretty solid defensively, because Easton's likely to wander, and that's when he's at his best, when you give him that freedom to kind of roam across the pitch and do what he needs to do and not have to worry too much. And then if you've got a Sean Byrne in there that can kind of slot over and help out the fullback, it just offers you that kind of defensive stability as well. But for me, Josh Mullen, get him in. Plus, have you seen him in that hoodie? He looked tremendous.
Of course he did. It's going to be a real Avengers Civil War moment for you if he comes up against Aidan Connolly at any point. That'll be a real tough one for you, Blair. Scott, nice. Just to return back to you with the same question, is there any sort of specific changes that you would be looking for, or is it much the same that you'd just be,
I think it's just purely if John Byrne's ready to go, I would probably just bring him back in for Paul Incio. Again, I don't think Incio did anything wrong on Saturday, but I think it's clear to see that Sean Byrne would start over him 10 times out of 10 if he's fit. So I think that's really the only change I would expect to see if Byrne is fit enough, because as we've seen, it's kind of slim pickings just now in terms of starting 11. So I'd expect. I do agree with Blair. I do think that Josh Mullen is our best sort of set piece taker and our best crosser of the ball. I do think that John Doherty, I know he proved it on Saturday, but even before Saturday, I do think he puts in a good cross as well. So if you've got that threat for either of them down that right-hand side, I mean, it then maybe focuses them to kind of worry about balls coming in for that side, and it might open up something for Easton on the other side, the fact that they're that worried about if it is Mullen and Doherty. Because, I mean, if it's McMullen, they've probably got a bit of pace to worry about, but McMullen's, he's turned a wee bit into just a tiny version of Grant Anderson with his crossing. Like, he's so unpredictable where it's either a good cross or it's in the stand. It's nothing in between. You're just like, you want a bit more consistency from him, but and I also think
if his finishing deserves better than that, Scott.
I didn't talk about his finishing.
I didn't talk about his
finishing. I was just talking about his crossing.
It was just crossing.
But I do think that if Robson does go with Mullen on that right hand side, McMullen's a decent sub to have on the bench as an impact player, because he's somebody after 65, 70 minutes. Can you think of somebody that's just going to absolutely rush at you and harry you for 20 minutes, and you've just played 70 minutes against probably Easton or Mullen or whoever who's already been giving you hopefully a tough enough game, and then you've got him sprinting at you for 20 minutes. I don't think that's what you're wanting. So it's not a bad sub to have, and then even if you've got the likes of Montague and stuff that can inject a bit of energy into the team later on. So it would be nice, as I said earlier in the podcast as well, to get an early goal to kind of settle everybody down and the team, and then take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that we can go out and we can put in a display that gives a reason for optimism. I know I keep saying this, but if you can get people on side, it makes such a big difference. If you go a couple of goals up and people are feeling confident and getting behind the side, again, it's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. We know that Queen's Park have got plenty of experience in there. We've got a lot of players that have historically given us headaches. And with Josh Fowler coming back, they've got the goal scorer in there as well. But yeah, just got to see how we do on Saturday. Really keen to get along to Lesser Hampden and go for the experience. Get that one ticked out of the way.
So, like, I know that we discussed it earlier, but I understand that fans are not happy in terms of how we're playing just now. I think also people will start to care less if we start winning. So I think it's as simple as long as we start winning enough games, people will slowly. I'm not saying that it'll just completely go away how we're playing, because if we aren't playing still great football but winning games, people will say that it'll be good to actually be playing decent football. But at the end of the day, you're there to get the 3 points. So if you can pick up 3 points more often than not, I don't think folk will be caring too much how we got them.
I mean, it's such a nuanced subject, and again, it'll change week by week depending on the results. But that's all they can do, and they can only go out and hopefully get a result. Right, we'll leave the actual match chatter for there. I have lined up a should McStay, should Dargo, so you'll probably hear a few sighs at the moment. So I've got 6 clues about a past or present Rover. So clue number 1, I've played 76 games for Rovers, scoring 17 goals.
76-16. So that's what, 3 seasons?
17 goals it was.
17.
Okay.
I'll add my source according to Transfermarkt.
I was fully ready to just try and think of like a Queen's Park Raith Rovers link. So I was all set to go Willis Furtado for the first one. I can't bring myself to say it was 17 goals. I've not put my name to that.
76 games as well.
Yeah, totally. 17 goals, mate. He could have played 300 games for us.
He might have had 76 Kinder Buenos, but maybe. I'm not sure he would have.
That's one of my all-time favourite stories or anecdotes that I've seen related to Rovers. Just him stoating along the high street with those under his arm. But there's every chance. There's every tiny possibility that he might play at the World Cup, depending on an injury crisis for Cape Verde.
He can't still be playing, surely.
He's in Serie D in Italy. I didn't know that it went that low. Yeah, he's still playing for a team there.
Aye, fair play. I couldn't play in the 4th tier of Italian football, so that's off to me. Right, 17 goals. I'm not even bothered about the 76 games. 17 goals. That's a few. I don't even know. Ali Graham. I think he'll have more than that, to be fair.
Does have the Queen's Park link in there. Scott?
I'm struggling here. I'm certain he didn't score this amount of goals, but and probably didn't play this amount of games, but just to get an answer, Bobby Barr.
Well, I had him no long ago, did we not?
I think in.
I actually feel like that was a relatively recent one, because we went round the houses for ages.
Clue number 2. I am 28 years old.
No Bobby Barr.
It's not Ali Graham then.
No.
28.
So current player.
Should still be playing.
Wonder if we got anybody currently 17 goals, 76 games.
Jack Hamilton. I don't think he's got 17 goals yet.
We have had Jack Hamilton.
It's not a bad shout, because I'm sure somebody...
He was one of the really early ones as well, wasn't he?
I was going to say it wasn't a bad shout because, like, I'm pretty sure I've seen somebody bring up a stat about him saying he is like a
one in 17.
That was Ali.
No,
Yeah.
it was a 1 in 4 or something. He was like, wasn't he something horrendous basically? But
Really?
and everybody was surprised at how like many goals in little games he'd had.
And that's maybe a bit old for him as well. I don't even think he's 28.
Nah, probably not.
Well, if we just keep knocking in the crosses like we have against Arbroath and against and against Morton, then I would expect Jack Hamilton to be banging them in if we could keep doing that.
28 years old. Knowing Robbie as I do, I feel like that's a big red herring. Like he's not playing anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because he's making us think he's a current player. He's not a current player. He's definitely not a current Raith Rovers player.
Well,
Jack Hamilton
I would
28.
if he's not a current player, he's retired early and he had a pretty decent record as a Rovers player.
Yeah.
Like I think that would stand out alone if he had retired early and that's your record for the Rovers.
Any further guesses?
He's what moves along.
Nah, I've not really got anything to come at me at all.
Clue number 3. I have played under 3 managers at the Rovers.
Aidan Connolly? He's got to be older than 28, is he not?
That your guess?
Yeah, I think Connolly's about 30.
I think so.
And surely he played more than 76 games.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I was about to say it sounds like it could even be somebody current, but the fact that 3 different managers, in the last year?
Yeah. I don't even think we've got anybody in the squad that would be that age. They're all either 30 or they're like 23. Do you know what I mean? We've got the kind of the two ends of it.
That's true.
Any further bids?
I've completely drawn a blank here. I can't even think of anybody that's 28
not
years
having
old.
an era does not help.
Would you like an era clue?
I need an era clue.
My first Rovers goal was in 2017. My last was in 2022.
Okay.
2017 and 2022. That's 5 years. 76 games. That's not a lot of games in 5 years. So I'm thinking maybe somebody young. 3 managers.
2017. What year was it McGlynn came back to us?
That was 2019.
Was it 17?
2019, I think.
No, because he was before COVID.
2018
or
it must have
19.
been. 2018 it would have been.
Yeah.
Still, it's somebody that played under McGlynn when he came back.
2022. So you're a couple of years after COVID.
Again, you're thinking in the COVID season, there would have been what? There would have been 22, 23, something like that. So they're if he scored his first goal in 2017, he's going to be a teenager at the time.
I feel like you're definitely on the right track in terms of where you're going with
I
it.
feel like it should be
managers.
has to be here and just nothing.
Three managers. See, McGlynn loved a lone player that he brought back. That was always his thing. Get him on loan. Get him on loan again.
What I'm thinking is that, who's the three managers going to have been? McGlynn? No. Barry Smith? McGlynn?
Barry Smith. Yeah.
So who did Barry Smith bring in that was a teenager?
He wouldn't have been a teenager under Barry Smith.
He would have been if he scored his first goal in 2017.
Oh, yeah, he would have been.
He'd have been like 19.
Bugger, what's his name?
I feel like this is it.
Dario Zanata. Dario Zanata would have been about that age. On loan for Hearts.
Clue number 5.
Played Park and us.
Clue number 5. I'm a 2-time Challenge Cup winner.
Mm-hmm.
One with us. Two
I won with Hamilton.
They have won it twice. I won with Hamilton.
Hamilton.
And clue number 6, I'm from Canada. So the tie-in there, he did, again, he played for both Rovers. He was at Queen's Park before us on loan.
That's a forgettable one. I don't care how he even came to the head at all.
Is he really only 28?
Yeah, he's playing for Pacific FC over in
Canada.
Still playing for them. And yeah, he also scored his first Rovers goal at Hampden in 2017 under Barry Smith, who'd brought him in on loan. And then he scored his last Rovers goal in 2022. I think that was against Queen of the South, the day after we signed David Goodwillie. So, yes.
I'm going to... That first shout of mine is annoying me. Ali Graham. I just want to check, like...
What? How many goals he got?
Yeah.
So 76 games, 17 goals.
Ali Graham's 88 games and 17 goals. He's got pretty much the same record as Dario Zanata. I actually genuinely thought he'd have scored more than that for us, to be fair.
But, it's Ali Graham, just to throw himself into the category of legend with everything that he's done for himself. Certainly, I mean, it's a tough ask for Dario Zanata to get compared to a player that obviously played in Europe and won cups and leagues with us. So, there is that. But, yeah, that was the link up there for Shib McStair, Shib Darwell, played for both clubs, so I went down that route. But some interesting.
I knew you would. I was just trying to think of players that had played for both. I'm like,
I knew you were definitely on the right track though when you were talking about like the 2022 season. Scott was mentioning that he'd been a teenager when he played for us before during his first loan spell. So I definitely knew with that one you were on the right track. You were almost there. It was just trying to remember who was in the squad at that point. But
I was just putting the ball back for Blair to tap it in.
There we go.
Thanks, mate. Just appreciate it.
And fingers crossed we see more of that from Rovers going in on Saturday. Thank you for taking the time to listen this evening. We will, of course, be back with our post-match podcast. Whatever the result, hopefully it is a positive one, because we far prefer to be talking about victories rather than losses. But as ever, thank you for taking the time. If you have been lucky enough in the ballot to get along, then hopefully see you there. And bye for now.